Good evening. Wait till these people get seated. Okay, I'm here to talk to you tonight about Walpurgis Nacht. It occurs to me that when we rehearse, we have to focus so much on getting the music right that it's easy to pay little attention to the words or the text for the scores. In the case of Walpurgis Nacht, it is worth having some conversation about exactly what we are singing. The text itself is a striking poem written by one of Europe's eminent writers, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And Mendelssohn obviously loved the poem. He used all of the text, and he spent years reworking the music for it.
I can't understand a thing.
Can I take it off? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I was told not to, but we're making one exception. Could you follow that at all?
Yeah.
Hopefully, okay. Several singers have mentioned that they don't have a clue as to what's going on in this poem, or in this piece. It lands us in an antique time and place with its pagan fire rites, its talk of devils and murder, and its rowdy druids. It bounces around from one point of view to another. The compressed poetic text, with a few archaic terms thrown in, is at times hard to follow. A raucous ritual full of communal energy consumes more than a quarter of the entire piece. It may come as a surprise that Goethe's poem was intended to convey a rational plea for religious tolerance, and that Mendelssohn's treatment of the poem reflects his own personal connection to it, while he also takes pains to humanize the concept of religious diversity. The subject of the poem's subject is the persecution of the Saxons, an ancient Germanic people who had settled large parts of Europe following the decline of the Roman Empire. The Saxons worshipped their god Woden or Bodin, and often conducted their religious rites on mountaintops. In the year 772, the Frankish ruler Charlemagne took it upon himself to conquer the Saxons and convert them to Christianity. For 30 years, he conducted a savage campaign, killing masses of people, pillaging, taking hostages, and breaking truces, all with the aim of compelling them to accept Christianity. Walpurgis Nacht derives from Saint Walpurgis, a missionary to Saxony who was known for her kindness and mercy during Charlemagne's bloody campaigns. The church most likely chose to honor her on April 30th, the day of the pagan holiday celebrating the coming of spring. Charlemagne, presumably with help from Saint Walpurgis, successfully subdued the Saxons and their allies, took their land, and incorporated them into the Frankish Empire. But he was not entirely successful in wiping out their culture and religion. Vestiges of earlier customs and beliefs hung on, practiced by a subdued and humiliated population. Traces of the Saxon rituals on a mountain called Brocken in the Harz Mountains fascinated Goethe. Oh, okay, sorry you guys, hope you can follow me. In 1771, Goethe hiked a trail that leads to the mountain summit where the ancient rites were said to have been held. The Goethe Way is a trail that commemorates his climb, popular with hikers to this day. Now, Goethe chose to call his Saxons druids, a collective term conveying pagan power. The term harkens back to Caesar's Gallic wars against the Celts, who occupied a large area of Western Europe. Various accounts of the Druids, their religious leaders, were recorded during the Roman invasions. The 18th and 19th centuries saw a revival of interest in the Celts. Poets idealized their powerful Druids as bards and mystics, associations that appealed to Goethe. Goethe's poetry was rooted mainly in the ideals of the German Enlightenment. He's kind of a cusp figure of half his life in the Enlightenment period, and then he kind of runs over to the Romantic period where he and Mendelssohn come together. For Goethe, the need for emotional balance was a key precept. He also felt that no one has a full purchase on the truth or can ever completely grasp the thoughts of another. His poem captures his insistence on balance and tolerance, encompassing both Dionysian revelry and Apollonian calm, without privileging one over the other. His poem also reflects a key idea inherited from the Enlightenment. Suppression doesn't work. It only drives the denied practices underground. The rational, enlightened person accepts religious differences. Although reared as a Protestant, Mendelssohn was always mindful of his Jewish heritage. He was particularly sensitive to Goethe's depiction of an oppressed group triumphing by guile in an occupied land. Aware that historically his and other Jewish families had been forced to practice their religion in secret, Mendelssohn found in Goethe's poem an opening for exploring religious suppression. He also, I did add, because he's a romantic, revels in the colorful otherness of the pagan culture. Some have thought that for Mendelssohn, the situation of the persecuted pagans specifically reflected the increasing anti-Semitism throughout Europe in the 19th century. This may be true, but Mendelssohn never expressed this view openly. We can, however, safely say that he grappled with the impacts of religious suppression, while he also venerated the persons of conviction, like Elijah, St. Paul, and now our Druid priest, who stood up for the right to worship freely. It is clear that Goethe imagined his scene of pagan revelry, as the historic record is rather scant. In his hands, a plot emerges, with characters and dramatic tension. Mendelssohn compresses Goethe's 12-point, Mendelssohn follows the order of Goethe's text, but he transforms it to a more multi-dimensional experience. He compresses Goethe's 12-part poem into 9 parts. He frames it with a lengthy overture, with orchestral insertions in the body of the work to guide the listener through changing moods and events. To emphasize psychological impact and dramatic tension, he has the soloists and chorus repeat keywords, virtually dissecting Goethe's poem in key places, interrupting the plot to draw out the emotion. In Mendelssohn's overture, you can almost feel the winter storm with swirling snow and raging wind. But it is not only a literal storm, it is a metaphorical one as well. The music conveys the suppression of the Saxons and their cultural winter, with its ragged notes and tragic mood, often in a minor key. A slow thaw and reawakening are suggested by the horns that intrude toward the end of this section. So then, number 1, I'm going to go through the parts of the poem, get through as much as I can. Number 1, the Saxons are folk in our scores, emerge at last into a glorious spring. A druid urges the people to go up to the top of the mountain to practice their ancient holy rites and give praise to their high god, who's referred to as Al-Father. Now, interestingly, Hinauf, which is translated as a way in our text, actually means upwards. He's saying, let's go to the top of the mountain. He's not saying, let's go through the forest. So that is, I think that's an unfortunate mistranslation of Hinauf, means upward. It's worth noting that Goethe considered himself a pantheist, and he had little use for organized religion. This opening scene captures the pagan sense of immersion in the natural world, a feature of pre-Christian culture that he admired. So, and 2, as you probably recall, the old woman argues against reviving the open celebration of their rites, fearing the occupiers' slaughter of their menfolk and children. Goethe gives her a scolding tone, a character trait befitting a crone. Mendelssohn overlays a sad and edgy tone, conveyed in a minor key, that recalls the dark mood embedded in the overture. And then she becomes increasingly strident, and the women join her. Their tempo is fast and skittery. Then the Druid priest counters the old woman's warning, declaring that those who fear taking part in the ritual deserve their chains. Mendelssohn makes this Druid priest a baritone, reflecting his authoritative role in the community. The tempo is andante maestoso, slow with majesty, to convey gravitas. He instructs the folk to gather wood for the fire and pile their branches together, and adds that although they must hide in the forest by day, they will perform the rites at night under the protection of the guards. He urges the folk to banish fear and fulfill their duty, and then orders the guards to disperse. The Druid bards go on high alert, preparing to guard the passes to protect the people. Mendelssohn repeats in silence, im Stillen, emphasizing the guards' fear of the enemy and necessity for covert action. The passage dramatizes the need for watchfulness and secrecy among those who've been denied open access to their religious practices. Light staccato orchestra notes and muted choral voices marked pianissimo create an oral picture of creeping quietly through the forest. One of the guards suddenly suggests a daring masquerade to frighten away the occupying forces. Goethe makes him a rather brash fellow, unafraid to insult the dumpfen Pfaffenchristen, which is translated in our scores as dumb Christians. My dictionary, however, says Pfaffen means popish, which is kind of a fun connection there. Goethe was against organized religion, so it called these popish Christians. It's kind of interesting. His plan is to exploit the Christian fear of the devil, Teufel, threatening them with fire and clapping sticks, making a noise by night through the rocky passes. Mendelssohn makes his music staccato, suggesting stealthy movement, growing in speed and intensity as a call to action is picked up by the Druid guards. Now, I felt to get to part of this, which it's definitely my own interpretation, but I think it's right. The masquerade has itself been called a prank, which belittles its significance. The folk resort to deep subterfuge to practice their religion. In Mendelssohn's hands, number 6 is a pagan religious orgy full of vitality and passion. The masquerade allows the Druids and their followers to reenact deep rituals that tie them to nature, calling upon the owls and ravens to howl with them in Untergrundgeheule, our howling circle. Circles, often associated with pagan religions, symbolize the unity of nature, so the choice of words is pointed. Our score's translation doesn't hit the mark. It translates the line as, join with us to scare the craven. In S7, the next section, the baritone priest interprets the Saxon situation. The tempo again, andante maestoso, whenever he appears, it's andante maestoso, evoking a sense of authority. He acknowledges that his people are constrained by force and must worship by night. Yet he has cause for joy, announcing when it is day, cleansed by the night ritual, the people can worship with pure hearts, reines Herz. When the chorus of Druids and the people join in, you can hear resonances with Bach chorales and Lutheran hymns and the whole period of the Reformation. Particularly, I think when we sing Doch es Tag, so Waldmann Mag, the tonal shift away from rowdy 6 underscores that the serious conviction and spiritual longing that motivate the Saxons' practices. They ask for Allfather's protection, Allfather the God's protection against the persecuting enemy, Den Feinde in our text, a reminder of religious persecution throughout history. And there's a whole side conversation I have about the word erlauben, which is, again, one of those words that's very hard to translate. It seems to imply ongoing persecution. It's it says something like, we have to permit this to happen, but they're not really permitting it. So why the word erlauben, I'm not sure. But it's one of the kind of another sort of snag in this text. So the other point I wanted to make was when we suddenly are inside the point of view of the occupying Christian guard, who's overcome by panic and crying out to his fellow soldiers. At the sight of the approaching procession, they flee, fearing that hell itself is about to engulf them. Their hyperactive imaginations envisioning mentioned Wolfman and the Drachenweiden dragging them and rushing forward to snag them. The revelers are, in fact, only masked and equipped with lights and sticks. While Purgasnock suggests that primal forebodings lurk in all of us that can't be erased and can surface unexpectedly. So then you hear the desperate cries, "Lasst uns fliehen, let us flee," which provide a dramatic counterpart to the Druids' repeated cries of "Comte" in number 6. You get this kind of enveloping of action with the Druids coming, the Christians fleeing. In the last section, the voice of the baritone priest is woven with the voices of the people. The Druids' Altenbach, the traditional earthbound rituals, are subsumed into an expanded awareness of Dein Licht, an abstract divinity. Expressed in an upward leaping vocal interval, the repeated Dein Licht conveys the universal striving towards something that exceeds our human condition. Dein Licht, wer kann es rauben, your light, who can rob it from us, also reminds us that our internal worlds are our own, even when we may be forced to bow to external authorities. While Purgasnock captures the variety of religious experience from ecstatic ritual to spiritual yearning, at heart, both Goethe and Mendelssohn seem to agree, we all seek an ennobling idea, no matter our circumstance of history. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, that was hard to read. I condensed that from something about twice as long, and I originally didn't write it to be read out loud. So if you want to see the piece, I'm happy to share it with you. I'm going to also post the longer piece on Story Chorus. Did anyone have some comments or questions or thing they wanted to add?
Just really helpful following the text and listening to your explanations. So
Oh, well, thank you. I have to tell you, I have the good fortune to have two friends who are scholars of German literature. And one of them is an expert in Goethe's writing. So she clued me into a lot of the things about Goethe. I always thought Goethe was romantic, but in fact, he's more squarely in the Enlightenment tradition, but that tips over a little bit into the Romantic period when Mendelssohn is coming up. So they kind of meet at this juncture where Enlightenment is fading away, Enlightenment period is fading away, and Romanticism is starting to be a big thing. One of the points I didn't make in here was the Romantics venerated hero, the sort of hero worship, and so the priest, the veneration of the priest, is kind of a reflection of that. There's people who are stronger than most of us who can stand up to external forces and stay true to their mission. The Druid priest kind of represents that, along with Elijah and St. Paul. You know, they're all persecuted, they're part of persecuted communities. They all find a way to overcome that. But anything else? I love what Becky Tracy did say to me. She said, this piece is really gnarly. I think there's a lot more to it that can be said. Like the way it sandwiches that really strong fleeing in the forest between these two sections about the light. And my German consultant said that the first time it appears, the light is really about the light, the pagan seeking the light. In the end, when we see, the light is showing up, it's more about the universal search for the light, for enlightenment, that we all share, no matter what our, convictions. So, anybody else? Well, I hope to have some conversation with you all separately. I'd like to hear any questions or other things you'd like to talk about. Thanks.
Hello everybody, welcome back to BCCO. So we are in the middle of our semester. We are super excited, I think, because come in a few weeks we're going to talk about the parameters in which we are going to perform this live in person with all of our repertoire. And we have 4 fantastic works. We are still looking at obviously the Brahms and the Mendelssohn, with the Zemlinsky, which is orchestrally really colorful. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing how this piece is transformed, with all the instruments of the orchestra. So we're going to be focusing on, obviously, Zemlinsky quite a bit. At a certain point, we're going to revisit the Mendelssohn and the Brahms, but we are still in the learning process for the Zemlinsky. And so we're going to do a warm-up first, and then just dive in. So everybody, standing up. And feet shoulder width apart, rock side to side, find your center. Bounce a little bit up and down on the balls of your feet. You want to feel like the weight is on your toes and the balls of your feet, not your heels. It'll throw off the center and your hips. And if you throw off your hips, you throw off the alignment of your spine, and then your head is in the wrong place. It's all a huge connected system. Let's roll our shoulders around, loosen them. Remember, they've been sitting on top of your rib cage the entire time, and we want it to be nice and loose and fluid. Twist at the waist a little bit. Oh! The weather's been particularly weird, as it is for this time of year. It can be very cold and very warm. But regardless, we have to be aware of the muscles that we use for singing. We have to be aware of these muscles that have been working this entire time, but now, for rehearsal, we want to take control of them and really make sure that they have good engagement. Okay, bend your knees a little bit. Let's do a sigh on ooh. Excellent. One more time, even higher, lighter, and airier. And let's take a nice deep breath in, and we're going to focus on this inner tube of space around us. And we want to fill up all areas of the inner tube, not just forward, not just the side, but also back. And we're going to breathe in and then out on Okay, here we go, and. And. One more time. And. And really roll. Keep the support there. Nice and steady. Even there. Oh, keep on going to the end. Okay. Let's do our rhythm exercise. Okay. 2 and. Yeah, not that. Let's do that one more time. So when you get to the sh, that's either a very distinct length of a full chord note, and then as long as you can at the end, right? 2 and. Excellent. Really, really nice. Let's do a sigh on ooh. I feel like you should be a little bit more indulgent about your inhalation for that. So not just ooh, but ooh. So nice and relaxed in through your nose and very full. And don't forget that we as humans have a physiological response to deep breaths inside. And so for yoga, for meditation, tapping into your breath, they now know, even though we've known this for thousands of years, they now know that that deep breath, the slow breath inside, will help calm your body down, relax your body. And we're tapping into that same system. Sorry, there's like this huge gust of wind that's really. That's great. But there's this very innate system that we have that allows us to relax when we take in this nice, full, seated, relaxed breath. So we want to tap into that because we want the natural breath to engage certain muscle groups and also relax certain muscle groups. So that breath should not be rushed. Enjoy the breath, enjoy the exhalation too. Here we go, and. Yeah, it's so much better, right? Because the sound quality of the of the sigh is really important. The key is that when you breathe in, for whatever type of music you sing, it sets the tone of what you're going to sing. So if you want to sing something really exciting, pa. If you want to sing something very relaxing and full, ba, right? And that breath is critical to the quality of the sound that you're going to breathe in. I sang Beethoven 9 with Kurt Mazur with the New York Philharmonic. And obviously, Freude, schöne, gute Funken, right? And he's like, no. Don't you want to take a full breath? Don't you want to go, Freude, schön, instead of Freude, schön, right? That type of music that is so exhilarating, that is so joyous, requires more than just a Freude, but needs a sort of a very sort of seated human experience to go Freude, schön, right? And so that was my little cue to how our breath really changes, again, the quality of the sound. And so this breath, this rhythmic breath that we take for whatever music we sing, needs to be of the quality of the music that we are about to sing. So practicing that seated breath is of critical importance to how we rehearse and, of course, how we engage our vocal system. Okay? Let's do D major. Do I ever pick a different key? No, 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 no. Just on new. And and breath. That's it. And very deliberate breath. And so when we get to certain ranges, I sort of rely on, usually they start having difficulty at this pitch. Usually they have certain difficulty at this pitch. And I was a little bit surprised because Paul was like, we're at C major. I'm like, that's a high G? That's actually a really relaxed sound for that range. And again, it's because of that breath. We can dissect all the various muscles inside our head and whatnot, and our throats and whatnot. But there is sort of a naturalness to how we breathe that sets a lot of this vocal ability. I say to like kids and high school students all the time, you know how babies and dogs are really loud? They've optimized, without thinking, the way they produce sound. Over time, we tend to forget because we do a lot of talking, we do a lot of speaking, or whatnot. But we have that same sort of power that's very natural to our system. It's about sort of relaxing and engaging those systems the way they're supposed to be. Okay? Let's do D major one more time. Nivu, 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 ni. Very bright forward. And in my mask, this buzzes a lot, so you should try to get that sensation. And good. Just remember not to go nivu, no, like nivu, 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 ni. You don't want to spread any vowels. That makes it a little bit bright and sort of what would we say, spread. And D major still. Ready and. Yeah, with energy. And. Yeah. It sounds a little bit like you're putting this really expensive vase on the ground. You're going, Nivu. Instead of going, Nivu, Nivu. You should be throwing confetti in the air. Nivu, 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 ni, wherever we are. 2 and up. That's it. Let it be free. Free the sound. Excellent. That's exactly it. But keep it to the end and up. Yeah, that's much better. Excellent. That's exactly it. Beautiful sound. Nice. And. One more. One more. It's a beautiful free sound. You know, sometimes we think of high notes as really, really high and intense and whatnot. but there's also a very freeing quality too. It's like the difference between trying to muscle a ball and just kind of throwing a ball going, whee, right? And you want to do that with the sound too. You want to just release it instead of feeling like you have to muscle it to get to the note. Let's do D major, da 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 da. Yeah. Yeah. And what I want you to feel is yeah. And on the high note, you really are sort of releasing the sound, but again, not like this yeah, but yeah. That you're opening space up in the back of your throat to be able to do it, right? And that's it. Now, that was a high D flat, beautifully done, and yet it didn't feel like there was any, aggression's not the wrong word for it, but sort of heaviness to it. It was just a light, free sound. And that's when we can actually extend our range quite a bit. That was excellent, excellent, excellent. Let's do E major. No, 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 no. Major, minor, augmented, diminished, major. Okay? You can play one if you want. Okay? Hey, and not that. Now I was giving you no. I was giving you, but I want you to think about the music a little bit more horizontal. Now, sometimes when we conceptualize big leaps in music, we change the way we vocally approach those notes. And it makes it a little bit disjunct. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I want you to think of it as one horizontal line, and thus don't change too much of your vocal setup to reach some of these notes. These are not very high notes, these are not very low notes, kind of in the middle range. So it should all be in the same tone. One more time, E major. And. Excellent. Now, what I hear oftentimes, like now and some other times previously, is sing major, no, minor, no. Augmented must be really high up, so no. And diminished must be really low, no. And exact opposite what you need to conceptualize is that when we sing, we have to make adjustments for the intonation. Just like when we say when the third is oftentimes there, when you sing higher, right? Same thing for this. For augmented, don't overshoot, but when you go diminished, don't undershoot. Don't squish the notes down. No. especially that one. The diminished fifth interval tends to be a little bit overly low. Okay? Let's just do this for exercise one more time. E. Ready? And up. Yeah, that was really nice. Let's do it in F major. Ready? And. Not bad at all. Okay? Let's do it one more time. D major, bass, E tenor, alto, soprano. On new, right? And the goal is that we sing the chord, but that you rebalance and you hear yourself, and you adjust your intonation accordingly. And So sopranos, because of the range, are a little loud because it's higher than everybody else. Basses, remember, don't be too flat. You're the foundation on which everybody is basing the chord. Altos, the third needs to be obviously always higher, always higher. Let's do it one more time. Now try to balance and also tune with each other. Excellent basses, excellent altos, excellent everybody. Excellent. Now same chord, forte. Nice full sound. Same chord, same breath, a very energetic breath, and then sing piano. The reason why I say energetic, strong breath is because you're going to continue to support and support the piano, because otherwise it's going to sound like a flat tile, right? You want to make sure that it's like very engaged, soft, supported piano. And very good. That's really nice. One more time, forte. Excellent. So you see that there is sort of this is what Beethoven did all the time. Beethoven wrote forte for every single instrument. Sometimes an instrument was a trumpet versus an oboe, right? A trumpet is always going to win over an oboe. So if you're a trumpet player playing Beethoven music, you know that he wrote forte for everybody. So for the trumpet, that means mezzo piano. For the oboe, that means fortissimo, right? Just because they knew that he just kind of wrote. The orchestra plays forte, but in reality, everybody has to balance with it. So when we have these chords, what we also want to do is not only listen within the voice parts, but also balance across the way, so that your hearing is not only in front of you and back of you, but also the sides of you. These chords are really important, but also, obviously, within all the repertoire we do. So let's visit the repertoire. Everybody sitting down, let's go to Zemlinsky. Now, again, we've been spending so much time at the beginning that we haven't reached as much time, we haven't spent as much time with the second half of the book. I would like to start on page 23, Michael Jordan's page. Thanks. There's one person that gave a delayed chuckle. Okay. There's also LeBron James number. Okay. Let's start directly where you enter. And Paul, do you mind playing a little bit from bar 206? The chorus part. Yeah, 1, 2. Sorry. Paul. He started from bar 206, right? The pickup to bar 207, right? Just listen to Paul play for a second. 1, 2. Now, this harmonically is bizarre, but it's fantastic, right? I have trusted in thy mercy. And when you get to the third bar, rehearsal 21, mein Herz freut sich, my heart shall rejoice. I want you to listen to the first part, and then the second part for the harmonies, okay? Pick up the bar 207, I have trusted in thy mercy. That is sort of a nebulous statement. I have trusted in thy mercy, and you are a terrible God. I have trusted thy mercy, and my heart shall rejoice. So that change of harmony is a major psychological switch. Listen to it one more time. Pick up the 207. 1 and 2. And 1. I have trusted in the mercy. What's going to happen? 1, 2. Shall rejoice in thy salvation. It's very distinctly two separate parts of this. And then, like we've been talking since the first day of rehearsal, we've been searching for the D major the entire time. At the very beginning, we have no clue what key is going on. We just know there's a D. And we hit D minor. It's a very tragic, amazing chord at that point. We hit a B minor, which is very much related to D major, but not quite. And then at the very end of this passage, we are very clearly with a nice full D major chord. Doesn't make sense in the context, but we end up there, which is the most important part. Let's read this. We're going to start from the downbeat of 206. So Paul is going to play the downbeat of 206. Then we enter on the third beat of 206 and sing through. Feel free to sing the German, or if you're not comfortable with that yet, sing Da. Regardless, we're looking for notes, harmony, and change of texture and color in that rest. Okay? So here we go. Paul's going to play the downbeat of 206. I'm going to conduct it for the downbeat of 206. And then we come in on the third beat. Here we go. And 1, 2. And 1. The harmonies feel very uncomfortable. They feel like there's no relationship between some of them. However, unlike the beginning, where it was nebulous. We couldn't find a D, we couldn't find a minor chord, we couldn't find a major chord for a really long time. So when we found a minor chord, all of a sudden it felt really strong, right? Nebulous mists that were kind of weeding through, and then we find a D minor chord. Now here, we have so many major chords, so many minor chords, but they don't make sense. They don't quite make sense. Remember how I said last week, it's like almost like he's trying to will himself into believing and whatnot? Here, it's like he's saying major chord, minor chord, major chord. Let me try to make sense of this all this pain and suffering that I have. And it's not quite there yet. So that sort of shifting harmony that feels uncomfortable to sing is very deliberate. Let's try that one more time. Okay, bar 206. Ich hoffe darauf, dass du so, S-O is so. Okay? Bar 206. Ready, and 1, 2. And 1. Krishna once and up. Yeah. It's like our warm-up exercise. Right? So you can get all those consonants in. Now, I don't hear. Now, remember with English, we do this all the time. We say, I have trusted in thy mercy. I have trusted in thy mercy. I have trusted in thy mercy. I have trusted in thy mercy, right? However, right now, I don't hear the ending consonant for ish, and as a result, it doesn't sound like the word, right? You have to make sure you say, ish hoffe, I have trusted, okay? Ich hoffe, aber darauf, das zu, you know? All right, one more time. One more time, let's run through it. 206 from the beginning. And again, don't feel like you have to sing out super, super loud. The key is to hear across the way so the chord is strong. It's going to be stronger as the chord is strong rather than you just kind of belting out all the notes. See if you can connect to everybody and create a strong chord. 206, downbeat, come in the pickup to 207. Paul plays the good downbeat. 2. And 1. Ta, di, di, east, and. Excellent tenors. Excellent tenors. I heard a T instead of an F sometimes. I heard an ST, but really, really good concerts. Now, let's do pickup to, mein Herz. So this is bar 21, pickup to the 4th bar. Or if you're looking at bar numbers, this is bar 211, 12, 13, 14. 214 with pickup. Oh, 214, mein Herz. Valentine's Day. Okay? Mein Herz, my heart. Just those chords, okay? 1 note, 2 chord, right? There you go. Just mein Herz. 1, 2. But just like when we breathe in, you go, my heart, right? Not my heart. My heart. Mine has, right? 1. That's a beautiful E major chord. E major chord in the middle of cacophony, right? And that chord should sound like we have found some harmony, we have found literal harmony, we have found some security. Now, mein Herz freut, right? My heart with joy, freut sich, mein Herz freut sich, dass du so gerne hilfst, right? So see if you can get it. Mein Herz freut. Not only my heart, but my heart leaps with joy. My heart has joy. This is 2, 11, 12, 13. Paul is going to play, sorry. Pick up to 2:14. Let's just pick up to Valentine's Day. Mein Herz. Ready? 1, 2. And excellent. Not only the consonants were contagious, the tenors gave them to the sopranos. The last ending consonant was fantastic, especially from this side of the room. But you see this, we go, mein Herz freut, and then sich, and then you say it almost again, mein Herz freut sich, right? And so you really have the same chord and the same chord progression. Paul, do you mind playing from pick up to bar 214? And I want you to listen to the repetition of this chord progression. And that chord progression. And we do it again. And ta, ti, ta. T, altos and tenors. Ti, ta, ti, ti, ti. And right? It sounds like we're almost convincing ourselves that is a nice chord progression, right? It's a completely nonsensical chord progression, and yet there's so many major and minor chords that we can just try to will it to make it work. Okay? Let's try it. Mein Herz freut. This is pick up to 214. Pick up to 214, right? Now again, take a breath that is just going to make you sing with joy. Mein Herz, right? 1. Mein Herz. Excellent. And again. And T. Tenors and altos. T. Yeah. Don't forget, it's an F first. I'm doing it wrong. Everybody say. Now say. Now listen again. And now go. Ready? And but you have to do the head motion too. Ready? And okay, better. I saw 3 of you do the head motion. Everybody was like, what? That was much better. Okay, now let's get this entire section in. Ich hoffe aber darauf, dass du, So we have the beginning of this. Paul, if you can play silently a little bit, we're sort of like trying to find these chords. Pick up to 207, just the choral parts. Ready? And then you have this. And this is kind of a little confusing. It's still all major chords, but we're still in the same chord. We're still in the same chord. Oh, that's not quite it, but we found it. Close. On T, T, backwards way to get to D major, honestly. And yet, it sort of kind of works. That's the whole point of this piece. Let's try to pick up to 207. Everybody sing. I have trusted in thy mercy, and my heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. Okay? So Paul again is going to play the downbeat of 206, and then we move. Okay? And downbeat of 206 is 1, 2. Infected a little bit with those consonants. That's great. That's great. It's really coming across really nicely. Now, what you sing at mein Herz, Freud, is so full and uplifting. What we need is a little bit of that energy at the very beginning, even though the harmony isn't as secure. And that's what's going to give it that big change. I have trusted in thy mercy. Again, we don't know which way that's going to go. Is that going to be positive or negative? But you have to give the energy there. I have trusted in thy mercy, and my heart shall rejoice. And right now, the very beginning, Hofa, Hof, is a little bit hesitant. Okay? Let's try it one more time. 207. Now, Paul is still going to play the downbeat of 206. But again, I want that second beat to be a full, relaxed breath that has. Remember that you have not been singing for like 5 pages of music, right? And this is not, oh no, we need to warm up again and sing again. But this is, we've been waiting that entire time, okay? Bar 206. Downbeat with Paul, and then come in the third beat. And 1, 2. Excellent! And P, D. And 1. Same chord. Krishna, and 1. Here we breath. Now that is how we sing full without being cheerleader-y shouty, right? We got a full sound that's rich because the chord is strong. And this section has so many chords that are very vertical and sort of strongly built from the bottom up. Now remember, that's incredibly different from the very beginning of the piece. The very beginning of the piece, everything is horizontal. Basses are singing really long notes with the tenor is just going tom, pa, and then sopranos and altos, da, da. Everybody's sort of feeling their way around horizontally. And if it clashes, it clashes. If it lines up, it lines up. But it's sort of random where things align and where things don't. Here, everything is vertical, is strong, is full. But the chord progressions don't quite make sense yet, right? And so this is just really so beautifully written, okay? Now, let's do page 26. Page 26. This is one of those sections that we said is sort of that same sort of melody passed around through the voice parts. I will sing to the Lord. one voice part at a time before we have everybody sing together. So, Paul, can you play? This is at the very beginning of rehearsal 24 from like this couple pages, right? This is voice parts. And 1. Yeah, remember this? And then we are in unison. Altos and basses come in. Everybody unison, look at that. Yeah, look at that. Sopranos, tenors, different entrances. Altos and basses are together, and then all of a sudden we come together and sing together. It's very, we call it tone painting, right? It's where the music reflects the idea or the text that you're singing. I will sing to the Lord, we'll sing it together, and eventually all of our voices will come all together again. This is why this is one of my favorite pieces we could do for pandemic time. It's because it took us a while to really learn again how to sing together, and we're doing it symbolically, literally in this piece as it goes along. Okay? Let's just stumble through this. We've obviously done this before, but again, we're starting to look at detail a little bit more. Sopranos starting from bar 241. Ich will, dem Herren singen. That tempo that we just did, and then tenors come in, and then altos and basses in unison. Ready, and 1. Tenors. And unison, 1. Altos and basses, and unison. And excellent. Nice. I appreciate that last consonant. Thank you for the wonderful last consonant. Can we start from bar 249? Bar 249, unfortunately, it's probably a page turn for you, is page 26, last bar, into the next page. This is the exact moment where everybody sings together and it's in unison. Let's see if we can get the rhythms to be really nice. Paul, I want you to play from from page 26, first bar, and I want you to listen only to the accompaniment. Okay, it doesn't make a difference where he plays, because it's a very distinct rhythm. Ready, and do you hear that? It's just ta, ta, ta. It's like we're on a procession. We're on a journey together, right? And so when we sing at bar 249, when we're in unison, have that sort of momentum in your mind, in your voice. Ta ta ta, ta ta ta, ta ta ta, ta 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 ta. Now there's kind of like nice pulse. Very almost meditative in terms of its regularity. Okay? Bar 249. What's the A? Da da da. To da says vo. Okay? 1 and 2 and ready, go. And 1. Ta ta ta. So make sure those A notes are in the context of this tempo. Ta ta ta, ta 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 ta. Okay? One more time for text and rhythm, right? Tu das so vo. Right? 1 and 2. Ready, go. And. Excellent. Can we start from bar 241? Sopranos, then tenors. but with that same sort of cadence, that same sort of oscillation. Ta, 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 ba, 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 da, 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 da. Okay? Have that pulse with you. Following the right pitches. Oh, I was actually right. Okay, 241. Now get ready for the breath. The ich feel, right? 1 and 2 and excellent. Oh, yes. So beautiful. But make sure that you have the rhythm. Ich feel dem Herrn singen. Ta ta 1 ta 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 ta. Right? 241, right? 1 and 2 and 1. And 1. And tenors. With the sopranos and 1. Basses and altos and go. You see how there's like a rhythm, there's a pulse to this. That's what the word is. There's a pulse to this, right? One more time. Tenors. Make sure that E is nice and high and that it floats a little bit more. Do you notice your dynamic versus the soprano dynamic? Sopranos have a mezzo piano, but the tenors have piano. So they declare, I will sing to the Lord. But when you come in, it's the second half, right? Dem Herren singen, right? Das so wohl. He has dealt bountifully with me. All right, sopranos, start us off on bar 241. Right? Actually, Paul, why don't we play from 240 and then everybody come in 241, okay? So Paul's going to play from the beginning of that page, then we come in the second bar. And 1. Sopranos, and 1. Tenors high. Excellent. And 1. Basses altos. And 1. No 1. Excellent. That's really excellent. Okay? Basses. They were nice. Decent. Let's continue. 255. Now, let's start from bar 256 for now. Can you play, Paul, a little bit of the line? Dun, dun, dun. Remember, and continue on for now. This is a straight fugue, parallel fifths. And sopranos. So gorgeous. And good. Okay, right. Now, the difficulty with this, like we learned last week, is to make sure that your C sharps and your C naturals are very distinct. The same thing, G sharps for sopranos and tenors are distinct. Altos and basses, C sharps distinct. Sorry, C sharps and C naturals very distinct from each other. And then sopranos and tenors, G sharps and G naturals are very distinct from each other. The same pulse, oscillation. Ta 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 pa 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 C natural B. Alright, then the tenors come in. Here we go. Bar 256, bass engines. Alright, 1 and 2 and 1. Beautiful. tenors. And parallel fifths, altos. Sopranos, go. Yeah. Oh, yes. But that beautiful chord progression at rehearsal 27. Paul, can you play 27, rehearsal 27? G major. Yeah. That is a chord progression that makes no sense. Now, when I say makes no sense, theory, music theory, analyzes what about music sounds good, but only after it happens. So when we decided on what Western harmonies were, we literally went to Bach, and we said, why do his chorales, why does his music sound so good? And then we derived all the rules of harmony from what he did. Now, all the writing that Bach did and the rules that we created from it are broken in this music. We never do what we call parallel fifths. So, Paul, can you play on 263 the tenor and bass lines? From the 263 to the downbeat of 264. Now listen to this. 264. You hear that C versus G, that's an open fifth, and then it moves down to a B and F sharp. Those are what's called parallel fifths. Paul, can you just oscillate between the two of those? That's one of the cardinal sins of Western harmony. You never do that. Bach would never do that, parallel fifths. What ends up happening is it gives it a very archaic sound, a very dusty sound, a very Renaissance music sound, before we codify what Western harmony is supposed to be like. So that parallel fifths is really important for the intonation versus also, in addition to the oscillation, ta, 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 ta. Tenors and basses, can we start at the beginning of your line, 256, 256, and altos and sopranos, I don't want you to sing, but I want you to hear how we really oscillate between these two harmonies, and then when we get to those parallel fifths, what that sounds like, because that's a very distinct sound, again, that harkens back to 500 years ago versus 300 years ago with Bach, okay? Basses, 256, tenors, come in when you come in. Ready? 1 and 2 and 1. Excellent. C natural. Tenors. Keep on going, only tenors, basses. Look at rehearsal 27. Basses and tenors sing rehearsal 27, those 3 chords in a row. On mir tut, right? Ready? Ready, and What? Those are 2 parallel fifths in a row, right? What is he doing? And that music sounds so distinctly old because of that, right? And then you have the basses. Can you just play the bass line from 268? Right? 268. Ta-da-dum, ta-da-dum, ta-da-dum. Right? And you have that like sort of repetition, that repeating. It's almost like, again, meditation, mantra. Ta-da-dum. Basses. Why don't we just sing that? 268. And each time, me-tu. Da se so vo ho ho. But the same thing over and over again until you go aha me here tut. Basses 268. Everybody listen. And excellent. So go. right? Tenors, can you join in? Actually, tenors alone, 268. Listen to Paul when he plays. G sharps and G naturals are very important, right? And tenors alone, listen. Sounds like such simple music. And then when you put it with the basses, you get this beautiful, even though it's very old, sort of a very rich, full harmony, right? Basses and tenors, 268. 268. Ready? 1 and 2. Here we go, parallel fifths. Yeah. Oh, that's so amazing. That's so amazing. It's so harmonically wrong. It's so great. Okay, basses, tenors, altos, sopranos. Let's read from the beginning of 256. 256, a beautiful number. That's like a computer number, isn't it? The 6 is 64 times 4, right? Is it? It's something like that. Okay. Yeah, okay. 256, right? Basses. Ready? 1 and 2 and 1. Beautiful. Excellent. And the tenors go. Step, step, step. Altos go. Basses. Altos. And sopranos go. Parallel fifths. Oh, but we didn't do the best part. We didn't do the best part. Paul, can you play with the dynamics? Bar 268. 268. Let's start off a little louder so we can get the dynamics, right? Listen to Paul play 268 and 1. Watch. Oh, that decrescendo makes it mystical. It makes it special. Why would we leave out the decrescendo? Because we have an opportunity to make something musically interesting at that point. Can we start? Is that a weird place to start? Can we start there at 268? 268 basses. So that's where we start your sort of rhythmic mi to das, and then tenors and altos. You have in the middle of your line. The sopranos are at the beginning of your line. Now, like I just said to Paul, I don't want you to sing too soft, because when we make the decrescendo, it'll be more apparent. Okay, starting from 268. Here are your notes. Okay, we're going to start right on 268, and I want you to get the decrescendo to the mystical parallel fifths, right? 1 and 2 and decrescendo and. Do you hear that? That's fantastic. The piece could end there, and yet there's still more. It's so exciting, okay? Now, let's try this. I want you to look at only the dynamics from the bass entrance at 256, right? Bass entrance, pianissimo, sounds great. We have this oscillating, pulsating orchestra, and the bass is singing on top of that. Tenors come in, pianissimo. You just add to that color, to that mystery. Altos come in with a little bit more of a pianissimo. Sopranos, we start adding to the piano. We add to the volume. We have all 4 voice parts singing, and then we all decrescendo again to rehearsal 27 at bar 271 for this pianissimo that we just said was mystical, right? So let's start this section, which is so gorgeous. Basses leading us off. No, not basses. Paul leading us off at 255 in the season. Paul is going to play from 255. Basses are going to join us in 256. And then tenors 260, altos at 264, sopranos at 268, I'm assuming, right? Here we go. Paul starting us off at 255, right? And And bass. And tenors. And others. And sopranos, 1. And done. Take your channel. Beautiful. Now, Paul was great. Paul did not play your entrances, but that rhythm, tom, 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 ta, 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 ta. I want you to really lock into those beats, that the tempo, right? That's there. The cadence, even though cadence is a colloquial term as well as a technical term, but I want you to lock into that sort of pulsation of the music. One more time, right? Play the low B for the basses. Okay, here we go. Bar 2-5-5. Ready? And 1. Basses and go. Sorry. And so, excellent. Let Paul be the soloist before you, right? Paul gets one full bar before you join in. Paul goes first, and 1. Here we go, and 1. Excellent. Beautiful. And we're stepping in, marching tenors. 1. Excellent. Parallel fifth. Altos. And sopranos, go. Get ready, take your solo. That's fantastic. Can we start from bar 2-4-1? 2-4-1 on page 26. Lucky for you, you don't have a page turn, but we do. Paul, why don't we actually start from, can we start from bar 2-3-6? Now, 2-3-6, okay? Sopranos, we'll count off with you to make sure you feel comfortable with this. But Paul's been playing this pulsating thing for a while, and we want to connect to it before we have an idea of where we come. 2-3-6. Second bar of the bottom system of page 25. Ready? And sopranos. And 1. Tenor. Basses, go play with them. That's it. Tenors, go. Excellent. C sharp. Excellent. Parallel fifths, altos, go. And sopranos. And go! Excellent. Fantastic. We're going to take a break now, but I just want to acknowledge that color change, that pulsing is phenomenal. It's really, really wonderful. Okay? Let's take a break, and we will come back to more. start coming back. Okay. We're on page 29, end of this beautiful, beautiful parallel fifths, and again, very dusky, archaic sounding music. But there is a tag to this. We oftentimes call this a codetta, which is a little coda. A coda is a tail end of a piece. A codetta just means a little tail, little end of a piece. And this one is sung by the altos and tenors on page 29, third bar of rehearsal 27. Paul, do you mind playing this section? We've done this before. What we're trying to do is make sure everybody feels as secure as possible. So I don't want you to feel like we're doing this for the first time, but I do want to do these next 6, 7 bars, right? Third bar, 27. And 1. Yeah. So that really is a little codetta. It's a little transition into the next section. We had this one part where Paul is underpinning the entire music by going ta, 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 ta. And the music really shifts at this point. It really is a true transition into this next very polyphonic section. And polyphonic meaning many voices, which often means like fugal. It means that there are voices coming in one after another. So let's do this, altos and tenors. And then the bass and soprano still join in too. Let's read, third bar of rehearsal 27, right? 1, da, da, ba. You realize there's no third in that music. Right, here we go. Tenors and altos. Sopranos and basses still coming in on the next page, right? 1 and 2 and 1. Sopranos. Yeah, sorry, basses. I said you were coming in and you didn't! Because you're not supposed to. Good job. Tenors alone. Listen to tenors alone. Oh my goodness, so many rules broken here. There we go. Listen to Paul play the tenor line. Listen to how many octaves, how many open fifths, and how many parallel fourths there are. Listen to Paul play only the tenor line from the third bar of rehearsal 27. And 1. Stepwise motion, sometimes harmonies. Let's do tenors alone from third bar of rehearsal 27. Right? Da, 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 da. Ready? 1 and 2 and 1. Excellent. vol. It starts with a nice V. Vol. Make sure you have a nice zo and a nice vol. Okay? Let's do only the altos. Oh my goodness, altos. Sorry. The audacity of these parallel fourths. Listen to Paul play these parallel fourths. The entire page of 29 basically is parallel fourths. And 1. You hear all those parallel fourths, right? Again, that's a big no-no in Bach's era. So we're hearkening of a different time, of a different color. Altos alone, third bar of rehearsal 27. 1 and 2 and 1. Now remember that last note is relatively short. Ah ha 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 mi he toot. Right? And then make sure that I hear some consonants. I hear actually very clear vowels, but the consonants sort of disappeared. So we want to make das sowohl an mir tut, sowohl an mir tut. Not lots of consonants, right? Tenors and altos. With sopranos because you come in, but no basses because you do not come in. Starting from third bar of rehearsal 27, right? Right? 1 and 2 and breathe. 1. And. Sopranos and go. Yeah. Now, oh, is it? That's not A. You want to make sure on bar everybody, bar 278, that ta 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 ta, because we want to make sure that the mir and the tut are together. One more time. Rehearsal 27, third bar, altos, tenors, and sopranos, right? 1 and 2 and 1. And sopranos and go. Yeah, not bad. Can we start from before this with the basses? Bar 255. 255. 1 bar before the basses come in. Paul, when the basses come in, help them out a little bit, but then let them go on their merry way. And then same thing with the tenors. Give them help with the first couple notes, and then let them free. 255. 1 bar before their basses come in, and 1. And 1. And tenors go. And altos go. Sopranos go. And division. And altos, tenors, and 1. Sopranos and go. Yeah. And then now this next section, I want to do in isolation and separate from the section that we learned before, because this is incredible work of polyphony. Polyphony meaning many voices, many sounds, many polyphony, right? Polyphony. And so you have all these entrances coming together. We looked at this a little bit last week. But Paul, do you mind playing? And I want you to be very aware of not only your part, but when another voice comes in with very similar material. So starting from 279, movement, and we're going to start from the soprano line, then the alto line, then the tenor line, then the bass line, then the alto line, then the soprano line, then the tenor line. All these parts in polyphony, many voices, independent of each other. Starting from 279 and 1. Just listen to Paul. Basses, altos, sopranos, tenors. Because that chord is the same exact chord you sang before for mine herz, my heart. So again, each of these voice parts comes in one after the other. At the very beginning, it's about 2 bars, and then 1 bar, 2 bars before people come in. And then later on it tumbles on top of each other. Page 30 and 31. Very complex music. It is both vertical and horizontal. Let's break it down. The key thing is, as always, like the very beginning of the entire piece, is to know when you have whole steps and when you have half steps. For example, the soprano line. Paul is going to play only the soprano line, and I want you to be cognizant of the fact that there is no key signature. There are so many sharps and flats, so instead of a key signature, they write in every sharp and flat. It makes it a little bit complicated, but you just need to be aware when there's whole steps and half steps. Paul, if you want, take it away, bar 279, soprano line. Here we go. And 1. Whole step, half step, whole step. And 1. Yeah. So I've been teaching for fun music theory. And I would say to the students, look at the sharps and flats and tell me what key you think it's in. And the first part of this is very clearly in sort of a quasi-A major, as it has D sharps, no, that's not even, E major. It has D sharps, C sharps, G sharps, and F sharps, right? But then all of a sudden we have G naturals. And so it gets to be very complicated because G natural is sort of like D major. And so this music is a little bit complicated. It shifts all over the place. Can we just do the sopranos alone? Bar 279. With Paul, but be very aware of the intervals as you go. Okay? Ich will. Right? 1 and 2 and 1. One. Breath. G sharp. Yeah, that G sharp sounds so glorious. Now, can you play the B to the E again? B to the E at the very beginning. Ich will them out. That D sharp tends to be a little bit out of tune. So you need to make sure that the D sharp and the D natural is very clean. Altos, 280 or 281 with pickup. Let's try your line, okay? You also have issues with D sharps versus D naturals. Actually, you don't sing a D sharp, but you have a very clear D natural, okay? With Paul, right? 1 and 2, and here we go. And yeah, that last note, da, right? Or da, da, sounds so natural and clean, and the parts before that are really squirrely and bizarre, right? So you have a lot of big jumps, but then other than that, you have a lot of stepwise motion. However, the stepwise motion is not really obvious. Okay? Let's try that one more time. Alto line, pick up to rehearsal 28 on page 30, pick up to 281. So do, right? Do, re, do, ti, la, ti, do. Right? 1 and 2, and here we go. There you go. Yeah. Now, if the are nice closed E vowels, okay? Tenors, nice G sharps, G naturals. You have a lot of different notes here. Let's do the second bar of rehearsal 28. 1 and 2 and 1. And like the Sopranos. Yeah, so me. It's a really, really, really nice line, okay? Now, I find your line to be both seemingly very natural and also a little bit hard. Let's do that one more time. Tenor line, starting second bar of rehearsal 28. Now, really be aware of when you have a G sharp, especially if there's a whole note to it, or you have half notes to a G natural, okay? One more time, rehearsal 28, second bar, each V, ready? 1 and 2 and 1. Again. Yeah, excellent. Basses, the same issue. G sharp versus G natural. Lots of moving lines, plus some major skips. Let's try your line. Pick up to 284. Ich will dem Herrn singen. Right? 1 and 2. again, just make sure that when you sing V, they don't go veal. It's a V. Okay? Really nice. Now let's do, again, we didn't spend a lot of time with the notes. We just did a quick 2 passes with most of the voice parts, one for the basses. Let's see what happens if we put all 4 voice parts together. Now, again, actually, let's do ones with, sorry, Paul. Let's do ones with Paul alone, playing all the voice parts. But again, I want you to follow along with your voice part, but also hear how the harmonies work too. Because it's not as cacophonous as the beginning is in terms of harmonies. But still, your line is more horizontal than it is vertical. So all the voice parts put together with Paul start at 279, sound like this. And 1. Give a round of applause for Paul. Now, the reason why I say that is that what he did was really hard to do, like really, really hard to do. So let's see if we can sing it together, okay, with Paul playing the same thing, because again, you know, looking at music that's very horizontal, not that bad. Looking at vertical. Music that's vertical is really not that bad. Looking at multiple parts horizontally is terribly difficult. Okay, so sopranos, bar 279. Altos will come in 278, 280. And then tenors, bar after that, basses after that. Let's see what happens if we can sing through these 2 pages up into the next page on bar 31, page 31 with the E major chord. Okay, here we go. Sopranos, here we go. 1 and 2 and 1. Altos. Tenors. Basses. Altos. Sopranos. Tenors. Satisfying. We're like, we got here. We're here together. Altos, everybody, a really, really excellent job. What I want to do is I want to try to hear the altos and tenors starting from 288. 288. Now you have some really nice sort of duets here. And I want to have Paul play the alto and tenor lines to hear some of these parallel lines and some of the times where you sing together and then you separate a little bit. So Paul starting from 288, whenever you're ready. Yeah. And then it sounds so lovely, and then the last sort of note before you take your breath sounds so bizarre, right? It's a shock. Make sure that D is a David sharp in the altos is nice and high. Let's try that altos and tenors in the middle of your line, starting from bar 288. Altos and tenors, bar 288. Right? Yeah. 1 and 2. Excellent. Excellent. And then just like everybody, sopranos, altos, and tenors, and basses, but just like the altos and tenors did, when you get to that last note before that comma, Ta, ta, da, ta, ta, ta. So not ta, ta, da, ta, 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 but sing that last note with length and then take a nice breath. Ta, ta, da, ta, 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 ta. Okay? Excellent. Let's try from 279 one more time. All four voice parts. 279. Ich will den Herrn singen. Right? Sopranos first, altos next, tenors and basses. Okay? 1 and 2 and 1. Beautiful. Altos. And tenors. Basses. Sopranos. Tenors. Beginning of the piece, we were trying to figure out our way, and one significant minor chord, the B minor chord, really stuck out. This E major chord, right, is an amazing piece, an amazing chord in this context. What I'd love to do is start and put this a little bit together. I would love to start from page 26. Page 26. With the soprano entrance and sing through this section. So we have some minor lines that sing a little bit together, and we have this oscillating, plodding, step-by-step bass. And then we have this very complicated fugal passage, polyphonic passage, and then we end in unison on an E major chord. Let's try this. Starting from 2-4-1, bar 2-4-1, soprano line, Ich will. Okay? Ich will. Okay? 1 and 2 and 1. Tenors. And sopranos and tenors unison. And basses and altos play the line. Good. Unison. Basses. And 1 and 2 tenors, go. Alto line and go. Soprano line, go. And decrescendo, mystical. Altos and tenors are 1. Sopranos and go. Get ready? Sopranos, here we go. Alto. And tenor. Basses, alto, and sopranos, tenors. And here we go, 1 and 2. Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I really want to emphasize sort of the sections that we went through. Paul, if you can play the sort of mini overview version of what we did. So page 26. You just play the soprano line. we have that single solitary melody with a single voice part, right? And then eventually we get to all play together on do 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 do. End of one section. Then we have this amazing section where we have a very slow, monotonous march between all the voice parts, with the basses going 1, 2, right? And then we have that going through all the voice parts again in strict fugal polyphony, right? Many voices, right? And then on page 29 of rehearsal 27, we have this beautiful chord, G major to A minor, D minor, right? Now, to me, when we get to page 30 with the soprano line at 279, already it's even more uplifted. So Paul, if you don't mind playing from 279, with the last section that we just heard, the very dusty parallel fifths and whatnot, playing from 279. Ready? And 1. Right? Did you hear that? All of a sudden it sounds more optimistic already. It already sounds like it's released itself of that monotony of those two parallel fifth chords. Ta, 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 ta. It suddenly has a brighter outlook already. So Paul, if you can again play 279 a little bit just for here, and 1. Right? Already sounds, the texture's different. Basses. Right? Now, this is still polyphony. This is still a fugal passage. And yet the fugal passage from before was darker. It was candlelit versus sort of sunlit, right? It's very different, clearly, very different sort of harmonic language. Then where we got to in rehearsal 29, and pick up to the second bar, just play the pick up into the E major chord. Right? That is even further along. And you see we have this progression from the doldrums of the monotony, and then suddenly we get brighter, and we see the sunlight, and then it's like a plane going across the clouds, and you see pure sunlight. You're above this any storm or darkness down below, right? It's a very, very beautiful, beautiful tone painting. So let's look at this next section from page 32 to 35, because this is really the wind up towards the end. Paul, if you don't mind playing pick up to 292, is just where we were, and just listening for a little bit as Paul plays. Let's hear how this sounds. Now there's a third in the orchestra there, but for the first time, can you play the last, from bar before rehearsal 31, bar before rehearsal 31 into the keys, right? And with the third. Right? So, that is a normal chord progression. We've been waiting this literal entire piece for a 4, 5, one chord progression, right? G major, A major, D major. That is what this entire piece has been waiting for this entire time, okay? Then, the part before that is still not quite, it's still limping a little bit. Let's do bar 308, langsam at the half note, with a pickup. Listen to this chord progression, right? Pick up to 308, 1 and 2. And D major, right? Yeah. So it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. Let's look at pick up to bar 292. Pick up to 292. Ich will dem Herrn singen. We've been saying that a lot, right? Now this is really fun because it oscillates between E major and C major. So those don't functionally go together whatsoever. But Paul, pick up to 292 again, just to hear the changes, go on for a few bars, right? Yeah, good. So let's look at that and read along. Now, when I talk about vertical music versus horizontal music, this is vertical music. We are singing chords. The voice leading isn't as important. Altos, do you see what he does with you? Oh, that's terrible. These huge jumps in the middle of nowhere, right? But that's because it's more about the chords than it is the voice leading. So your voice leading isn't very great, but the chords are important. We'll break it down a little bit, maybe in sectionals, maybe a little bit later on. But let's try everybody. Pick up to 292 with the pickup, the B to the E major. I'll give you 1 and 2, pa, okay? Here we go. 1 and 2. Rest. Rest. That's really great. Now, let's break this down a little bit. Why don't we do basses alone? Now, you have some really nice lines here, but the key is when you have a functional chord versus a melody. At the very beginning, you have more functional notes as part of a chord, and then all of a sudden you have very melodic lines. It really is literally half and half. So let's start from pick up to 292, basses only. Right? 1 and 2. Top, top. Excellent. Yeah, that's good. So it was slight misnomer. That melodic section I said is a pretty funky melody. It's like a blue cheese that's been sitting around for 2 weeks. So let's and there's those people that are like, oh no, just scrape off the fuzz at the top, and then the rest of it's great. And you're like, okay. Okay, so basses, what I would love to do is start at 296, where it gets very much dependent on when you have half steps and whole steps. So Paul just played from 296. Yeah, that's very, very disorienting. You just have to make sure you have B naturals, B flats, C sharps, C naturals, again a B natural, G sharp. Let's try right there, 296. Right, 296. Right, 1 and singing along, 1 and 2 and. Yeah. Now, the way that I think about this is, you know, meow 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 meow, right? But there's one extra note. Da 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 da. So just say so, do ti la so. Just sing that. Ready? And do ti la so. Right? Now we go do ti la le so and do ti la le so. Right? Da da ba ba ba. It's just a D major descending line with an extra added B flat note in it. Da 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 da. And then you go da da da. That's the danger. When you go to 297, which I believe is a page turn, you have to note that you're going to want to go to a B flat, but it's a B natural. So you have to alternate between the B flat and change to the B natural instantly. So Paul, if you don't mind playing from 296, right? Ba, 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 ba. Right? Paul, listen to Paul play. Right? So it's really kind of tricky. It's pretty tricky there, but you can do it, right? You will not be tricked by Zemlinsky's harmony, right? 1 and 2 and. That's not the most obvious melody. I'm just going to say that. This is not the most obvious melody. But I know obviously you can get it. We'll spend a little bit of time with it. But I just want to be aware for everybody that on page 32, you really are thinking about chords. And then page 33, everybody's thinking about their own melody and their own line that is trying to line up. Okay? We will spend some time, maybe in sectionals or whatnot. What I would love to do is pick up to bar 292, everybody, the E major sudden beautiful chord, okay? Yeah, those would be better writing notes than whatever I just said, right? Sorry, play that one more time so we can clear off whatever I was saying before. We can play that again. Right, here we go. Pick up to 292, everybody, right? 1 and 2. Breath. And breath. tenors, make sure that on rehearsal 31, your C sharp is nice and high. That is a third of the chord, a beautiful third of the chord. Basses, note on bar 30, rehearsal 30, that Zemlinsky is really mean. The note that's in the bottom of the orchestra is not your note. And if you play Paul, the orchestra is low A versus the bass is B, A flat above it on rehearsal 30. Just listen to this. Right? Zemlinsky. Right? It's kind of it's a little bit of a trip there. Okay? Again, we're going to spend a little bit more time. What I want to do is pick up to bar 292 where we started again. But I want you to listen to this for a second. I want us to all breathe together, but not shortchange any note. So, ich will dem Herrn singen, dem Herrn singen, ich will. So I want you, on the note before the breath, to give it length. Singen dem Herrn. So that's not singen dem Herrn, but it has still pitch and has length, and you're going to have to work at extending that note and then taking a quick breath and still coming in on time for the next note. So again, pick up the 292. Ich will dem Herrn singen, dem Herrn singen, ich will. Okay? Let's try that. I know we didn't look at the notes as deliberately as we did some of the other sections. Don't worry about that. We're looking for overall phrasing, especially for this first page, on page 32, with very vertical harmonies. Okay? Pick up the 292. Right? 1 and 2. And excellent. Next. Because that last chord sounds a little slightly funny, right? The last chord that we're singing doesn't sound like we're really quite there yet. And like I said, that chord progression is excellent. If Paul was to play the orchestra parts on bar before 31 to the end, listen to Paul play the orchestra parts from the bar before rehearsal 31. And sounds fantastic. That sounds like the end of the piece. And yet, the chorus didn't feel as secure, as full as that. Paul's going to play only the chorus parts on the bar before 31, right? And that sounds great. That sounds great. And here we go. Wait a minute, that's empty. It's missing the third, right? Because there's still music to go. So if Paul were to play, pick up to bar 318, right? Listen just to the end of the piece, right? Which is very much in unison. Oh, look, it's our melody. It's our melody. Unison. Harmony. And there you go. Then we have a full D major chord that the chorus sings. And you see his harmony and his selection from music that's vertical or horizontal or polyphonic or whatever is so beautifully and deliberately set. Let's sing that last section. This says pick up into bar 318. 318. The same text we've been singing. I will sing to the Lord. Ich will dem Herrn. But just like Wagner, every single time that text is set in a different way, it gives a different connotation. I will sing to the Lord, right, can be done questioningly, it can be done hesitantly, or it can be done securely at the very end. And so it's a really beautifully set piece. Let's sing all together. Pick up to 318 each field, right? And you sing one and two. And harmony. Beautiful. Good basses. Listen to this last chord progression from the bar before 33. The bar before rehearsal 33. Listen to Paul's chord progression. Right? That sounds fantastic, and it's not a traditional chord progression at all. I mean, like, Paul, can you play a plagal cadence, like D major to G major, and back to D major, back to D major, right? That's called a plagal cadence. We sing Amen, right? But this one is not G major, it's G minor with a seventh to it. So can you play the last five bars? Last five bars. Second bar of 33, and D major, and G minor, right? It's like this entire time Zemlinsky is saying, this is my real personal journey, right? This is like, you can see him struggling the entire time and desperately trying to reach this D major, and it really doesn't happen for the chorus and orchestra together until literally one of the last bars of the piece, 328, right? We have so many hints of it with an F sharp versus F natural. We have hints of it with a D minor. We have that's funny. Because it's like, I swear they're just pressing one button. But it sounds like they're like a DJ going, whoop, 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 whoop. And I'm like, are they just going, is somebody going there with D? It's just really funny. Because you think they just like switch on the flip, then you just switch on. Okay, sorry. I got completely derailed. But I mean, like, it's a brilliantly written piece, okay? And again, we did a lot of good detail work. Page 32 and 33, we didn't break down as much as we did the other places. So I would really look at the notes for that. But this whole progression towards the propelling towards this D major, this propulsion to the D major at the end, It is very convincing, and I think we have a lot of good textures and ideas for what the music is about. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Right up on me. Next week, we will have a guest. You might have heard his name before. His name is Derek Tail. He will come and join us. And Paul will have also a guest, a pianist. It's a mystery who it will be, but we will find one. And they will see you next week. Have a good week. Cheers, everybody.